Hi, I'm Michelle and I'm an immigration solicitor here at Truth Legal. I'm talking today from sunny Leeds about sponsoring senior care workers. In part one, I'll say a little bit about why this is a hot topic at the moment. In part two, I'll cover the recent changes to the immigration rules and what that will look like for sponsors. Don't forget to read the article above for more information and some frequently asked questions, which you might find useful if you're sponsoring senior care workers. Before all that though, a quick nod to Brexit. Since the 1st of January, EU nationals can no longer come to the UK under freedom of movement. If you're recruiting from Europe and your new hire wasn't in the UK before the 31st of December 2020, you will need to sponsor them in the same way as a non-EU national. If your European was in the UK before the 31st of December last year, there's a conversation to be had about the EU settlement scheme, but that's a conversation for another day. So part one, here we are in April 2021, and why are we talking about senior care workers? Why is it a hot topic? Well, the government announced in March 2021 that senior care workers would be added to the shortage occupation list, along with some other job roles like pharmacists, nursing assistants, health and care managers, and a few others. The Home Office says that this will ensure that the UK can get access to the best and brightest talent from across the world. What the Home Office leaves out of its announcement, however, is the controversy that has brought us to this point. Last September, the government's Independent Migration Advisory Committee warned that with the end of free movement, the care sector would face serious pressure on recruitment and would struggle to fill vacancies. The committee made two recommendations, remember that. The first recommendation was that senior care workers be added to the shortage occupation list. This was initially met with a straight no from Priti Patel, who said that the list wouldn't be expanded until the impact of coronavirus and the new immigration rules had been assessed. Okay, said the committee, but we've got a second recommendation. This second recommendation was by far the most important. The committee said that more funding must be given to the care sector. Care workers should be properly compensated for the invaluable work they do, mainly because that's the right thing to do, but also because this would enable employers to offer more attractive terms to the domestic workforce. So while the Home Office has made a welcome U-turn on the very specific issue of adding senior care workers to the shortage occupation list, it remains unclear what, if anything, this government will do to improve pay in the care sector as a whole. My guess would be not a great deal based on what we've seen so far. Okay, back to immigration. I will just mention here that the shortage occupation list doesn't yet seem to have been updated following March's announcement, but we are watching this space. This brings me to part two of this video. What has changed and what does it mean for the sponsors of senior care workers? I cover this in way more detail in the article, but if I could tell you just one thing, I'd tell you that the salary thresholds are lower thanks to the shortage occupation list. The whole idea behind having a list of shortage occupations is to make it easier for people working in those occupations to come to the UK, thereby, in theory, helping us with those shortages. For any job role in any sector, if you're hiring someone from overseas, you'll have to pay them the higher of either 1, the general minimum threshold, or 2, the going rate for that occupation. You must pay the higher of those two things, remember that. Let's talk about number 1, the general minimum threshold. For most job roles, the general minimum threshold is set at £25,600 per year. This goes down a bit in special cases, like for new entrants or for people with PhDs. Importantly, for our purposes, the general minimum threshold drops for jobs on the shortage occupation list. It drops by over £5,000 a year, actually, to £20,480. Great for sponsors as they get a bit more flexibility around how much they pay their migrant senior care workers. Is it good for migrant senior care workers? Arguably no, in that they can be paid less. But I guess also yes, in that financially it's a bit easier for employers to make the decision to sponsor. Now, remember I said you have to pay the higher of those two things, either the general minimum threshold or the going rate. Let's talk about 2, the going rate. The going rate for senior care workers is £16,900 per year. Like with the general minimum threshold, the shortage occupation list comes into play when we start thinking about going rates. If a job is on the shortage occupation list, the going rate drops by 20%. In the case of senior care workers, it drops from £16,900 to £13,000 and something per year. In practice, this doesn't actually change much for sponsors, as the general minimum threshold is still the higher figure, even after the shortage occupation list reduction. Okay, I'm conscious that's all a bit mathsy and might be difficult to follow on a first run through. I do break it down step by step in the article, but the bottom line is that you will normally need to pay your migrant senior care workers a minimum annual salary of £20,480. You can, of course, pay them more than that. I'll leave it there for today, but if you want to know more, your options are these. Number one, maybe you've already read the article that goes along with this video, but if you haven't, I'd definitely start there. Secondly, our free legal guide contains an absolute wealth of user-friendly information about sponsor licenses, and I can't recommend it highly enough. It's linked several times in the article above, and it can also be found under the legal guides drop-down menu at the top of this page. And finally, the immigration team here at Truth Legal are experts in advising sponsors, so feel free to contact us through the website for specialist advice tailored to your requirements.